There lived a young girl named Becky, a girl whose hands were blessed, though the world around her had not yet noticed. Becky's parents were poor, painfully poor. Feeding was a struggle, school fees were a heavier burden, and life seemed determined to crush their hopes. So when Becky turned 12, they sent her to live with her mother's elder sister, Aunty Kadi, a woman known throughout the village for being strict, blunt, and easily irritated. Aunty Kadi took Becky in, but not out of love, out of duty. Every morning she reminded Becky, "I'm the one paying your school fees. Don't come and waste my money." But Becky loved making beads. Not the regular red and blue beads everyone in the village wore. Hers were different. Unique patterns, unusual shapes, colors that blended like a sunset. She would mix shells, bottle tops, and glass pieces she found around the village, turning them into stunning beadwork that looked like art. At night, while the house slept, she lit a small lantern and walked in silence, threading, shaping, weaving her dreams one bead at a time. And she was good, exceptionally good. But Aunty Kadi hated it. To her, beads were a useless distraction. Whenever she caught Becky holding even a single bead, her face twisted in annoyance. "Are these useless things what will pay your school fees? Do you want to end up useless? Who will buy this kind of ugly bead? Nobody in this village wears this nonsense." She would snatch them from Becky's trembling hands and send her on errands, fetching water, pounding pepper, sweeping the compound, anything to keep her away from the beads. But Becky's love for bead making was stubborn. It always found its way back into her hands. And soon, everyone knew, because Aunty Kadi's daughter Fina made sure of it. Fina was Becky's age, beautiful, proud, and spoilt. She hated that Becky had anything she herself didn't possess. She hated Becky's quiet talent. She hated that a teacher once complimented Becky's earrings at school. So she mocked Becky every chance she got. "See your beads, they look like goat shit. Nobody will ever wear this rubbish. Do you think you are a designer? Please." One afternoon, Fina picked one of Becky's bead necklaces from her school bag and laughed out loud in class until everyone joined in. Students tossed the necklace around the room, others stepped on it intentionally. Becky ran home crying, but the worst was yet to come. When Fina got home that afternoon, she didn't even wait for the dust on her slippers to settle before running to her mother. "Mommy," she cried dramatically, tossing her school bag aside. "Mommy, you won't believe what Becky did today." Aunty Kadi looked up sharply from where she was sorting cassava. "What is it again? Talk." Fina folded her arms and shook her head as if deeply disappointed. "Mommy, Becky was not even paying attention in class. While the teacher was talking, she was busy making those useless beads again. I even told her to stop, but she ignored me. The teacher almost caught her and she would have embarrassed you." Aunty Kadi dropped the cassava with a loud thud. "What? Inside classroom? She is now doing bead nonsense instead of learning? Mommy, I'm telling you, she doesn't listen. She only cares about beads, beads, beads. That is why I told you to talk to her since a long time ago. She doesn't take school seriously." That was all Aunty Kadi needed to hear. Her face darkened instantly. Her jaw tightened. Her eyes glowed with rage. "Where is she?" she asked, her voice low and dangerous. "She is coming," Fina replied, trying not to smile too obviously. "So you now go to school to make beads instead of learning?" Becky froze. "Auntie, no, that's not..." "Shut up! After all my suffering, after all the money I struggled to pay for your school fees, you want to waste it on this useless thing?" "Auntie, please, Fina is lying. Are you calling my daughter a liar?" That evening, Becky walked into the house to find all her beadwork, weeks of sleepless nights, piled on the floor. Her heart stopped. Aunty Kadi sliced through every necklace, every bracelet, every string of beads Becky had ever made. Becky dropped to the floor, screaming, "Auntie, please, please, I beg you, that's my hard work, that's all I have." But Aunty Kadi didn't stop. She caught onto the last bead rolled to the floor, scattered like the pieces of Becky's heart. When she was done, she walked past Becky and said coldly, "Focus on your books. This rubbish will lead you nowhere." Becky stayed on the floor, crying until her voice broke. Fina watched from the doorway, smiling. That night, Becky didn't sleep. She stared at the empty wooden box where her beads used to be. She felt hopeless, crushed, invisible, and somewhere deep inside her, a fire started to burn. After secondary school, Aunty Cardi wasted no time chaining Becky to her market store. "Since I paid your school fees," she said, tying wrappers around her waist, "you will follow me to the shop. You will sell. You will learn. No more of those useless beads." Just like that, Becky's freedom vanished. Her days became a cycle of sweeping the shop, attending to customers, and running endless errands. By the time they returned home every evening, she was too tired to even eat properly, let alone create anything. But the worst part, every time she glanced at her empty hands, she felt something inside her dim. Her talent, the one thing that made her feel alive, was slipping away. But her passion refused to die. Some nights, she found herself awake, staring at the ceiling, imagining designs, colors, patterns that danced in her mind like fireflies. But she dared not make a single bead in that house. Fina's eyes were too sharp, Aunty Cardi's ears were too quick, and both of them enjoyed destroying anything that brought her joy. So Becky found help in the most unexpected place. Miss Comfort, her former teacher. One quiet afternoon, Becky finally gathered the courage to visit her. Standing in front of the teacher's house, her voice trembled when she confessed everything. How her aunt hated her bead making, how Fina mocked her, how she feared losing her dream. Miss Comfort didn't just listen. She held Becky's hands gently and said, "My dear, some gifts from God refuse to die. Bring everything to me. I will keep it safe." Becky's eyes filled with tears of relief. From that day on, Becky resumed her midnight bead making. She created bracelets, necklaces, waist beads, bangles, anklets, even beaded bags nobody in the village had ever seen. Whatever she crafted, she hid carefully, then carried to Miss Comfort in secret. Miss Comfort even gave her money to buy more beads. Every Sunday, she went to the stream, sat quietly under the shade, and designed her masterpieces in peace. When she was done, she hurried to the teacher's house to drop off the work. And time flew. Soon, the village buzzed with excitement. The annual festival, the biggest event of the year. It wasn't just a festival. It was the one day artisans became stars. The village square would glitter with colors and creativity. Basket weavers with their intricate patterns, bead makers with their traditional designs, dressmakers with their beautifully stitched gowns. And the prize? A no-length workshop sponsored by the king, a full year supply of craft materials, a cash reward, and 5 plots of land. A dream even skilled artisans prayed for. Aunty Cardi immediately enrolled Fina in an apprenticeship program to learn how to basket weave. But Fina, each time she returned, she complained non-stop, waving her bruised hands. "Mama, this is too hard. My fingers are paining me. I can't do this thing." But Aunty Cardi always shouted at her, "I paid for this apprenticeship. You must continue." Meanwhile, Becky quietly prepared for her moment. She imagined setting up her own store beside the other artisans, finally showing the world her unique creations, finally proving she wasn't useless, finally proving her aunt was wrong. But fate and wickedness had something else planned. On the morning of the festival, long before the sun fully rose, Aunty Cardi stormed into Becky's room and shook her awake. "Stand up, dress up quickly." Becky rubbed her eyes. "Go to the neighboring village. My friend is sewing clothes for me. Go and bring them. And if they are not ready, wait there until she finishes." Becky froze. "Auntie, please, let me just drop my beads at the festival first." Aunty Cardi hit so loudly the walls almost shook. "Drop which beads? Those nonsense things? If you don't leave this compound in the next 10 minutes. Becky didn't wait to hear the rest. She quickly washed her face, brushed her teeth, and hurried off. Heartbroken, defeated. She didn't even bathe. As she walked to the neighboring village, tears streamed down her face. Everything she worked for, weeks of midnight crafting, Miss Comfort's help, all the money spent, was about to go to waste. When she reached Aunty Cardi's friend's house, she knocked desperately. No answer. She knocked again. Still no answer. Finally, a neighbor poked her head out of a window and said, She left since morning. Her son fell sick, so she rushed him to the hospital. She won't be back anytime soon." Becky's heart skipped. This was her chance. She took off running back towards her village. By the time she reached Miss Comfort's house, she was panting, sweaty and trembling. She knocked. No answer. She knocked again, harder this time. Still nothing. She turned around helplessly, and that was when she saw an elderly woman resting under the mango tree beside the house. Miss Comfort left hours ago. She was dressed like someone who won't come back soon. Becky's heart buckled. Her throat tightened. Her vision blurred. She whispered, "No, no, no, not today." Because at that very moment, the festival had already begun, and her entire future was slipping away before her eyes. Becky didn't waste a second. She sprinted toward the festival square, her feet pounding the dusty ground, her chest rising and falling rapidly. She didn't care that sweat soaked her dress. All she cared about was getting there before everything was over. When she finally arrived, breathless and trembling, she froze. Miss Comfort was there. Not only was she there, she had already set up all Becky's beads. The display was beautiful. Arrays of colorful waist beads, bold bracelets, sparkling anklets, and the beaded bags she had spent so many sleepless nights creating. Everything was arranged neatly under a small shade Miss Comfort had decorated with fresh palm fronds. Becky let out a shaky relief and ran toward her teacher. She fell to her knees before her, tears streaming down her dusty face. "Miss Comfort, thank you so much." Miss Comfort lifted her up gently. "Stand up, my dear. Your hard work deserves to be seen." Becky quickly took over the stall, arranging pieces with trembling fingers. Then she spotted something across the square. Fina. Her cousin stood on a small stage arranging her baskets. Aunty Kadi was in the crowd, clapping for her, praying loudly, "God, let my daughter win. Let her shine today." Becky looked away and focused on her work. Soon the palace drums sounded. The king and the princess stepped out, the festival officially beginning. One by one, artisans showcased their crafts. Drummers played, dancers twirled, the air buzzed with excitement. Then Fina's turn came. She stepped forward with her baskets, but the crowd burst into laughter almost immediately. This one is too basic. I can weave this in my sleep. Is this supposed to be creativity?" Fina's face burned. Tears gathered in her eyes. She dropped the basket and ran off the stage, sobbing. Aunty Kadi's jaw dropped. Her prayers died on her lips. Then, it was Becky's turn. Becky stepped onto the stage with trembling hands, holding her beads close. But the moment she unveiled them, the princess gasped loudly and stood up from her seat. "Wait, are you from this village? How have I never seen your work?" Before Becky could answer, another girl stepped forward. "Princess Anna, the visiting princess from the neighboring kingdom." Her eyes widened. "I want all of them," she said eagerly. "No, I will buy all her beads," the first princess argued. The two princesses began playfully dragging the beads between themselves, arguing over who would get the first pick. The crowd erupted in cheers. Even the king laughed with delight. "Such talent," the king announced. "Young lady, step forward." Becky walked closer, her knees shaking. "You are the winner of this year's artisans competition," the king declared. "Come with your parents or guardians tomorrow. Your prizes will be waiting." Miss Comfort screamed with joy and danced in circles. Villagers lifted Becky onto their shoulders. Everyone celebrated her. Everyone except Aunty Kadi and Fina. Their faces were stiff with shock and shame. But the true heartbreak came after the festival. Fina arrived home in tears. Aunty Kadi snatched the key, locked the door, and stood in front of her daughter and niece. "You," she pointed at Becky with trembling anger. "You caused today's disgrace. I sent you on an errand and you disobeyed. Because of you, my daughter is a laughingstock." Becky stared, confused and tired. Aunty Kadi continued, voice shaking with rage. "From today, you are no longer welcome in my house. Leave this place. You are no longer part of this family." The door slammed. The lock clicked. Becky was left outside, in the dark, with nowhere to go. She stood outside Aunty Kadi's locked door, the cold wind wrapping around her like loneliness itself. Her eyes burned, but she refused to cry anymore. She wiped her face, picked up her small nylon bag, and walked through the dark village road to the only place she felt safe. Miss Comfort's house. When Miss Comfort opened the door and saw Becky standing there, dusty, tired, and heartbroken, she pulled her inside immediately. "Becky, what happened? Why are you out here at this hour?" And just like a child finally collapsing into the arms of someone who cared, Becky broke down and told her everything. How Aunty Kadi chased her out, how she had nowhere to sleep, and how she had no way to travel to her village to bring her parents for the prize ceremony the next day. Miss Comfort held her like a mother would. "Don't worry," she said gently. "Sleep here tonight. Tomorrow I will stand by you. If your aunt won't stand for you, I will." Becky wept until sleep carried her away. The palace was filled with villagers from every corner of the village. Drummers beat their drums. Everyone wanted to witness the crowning of the most creative artisan of the year. When Becky's name was called, she stepped forward with Miss Comfort by her side. The king smiled warmly and said, "Congratulations, young lady. Where are your parents or guardians? They must come forward to collect your prize." Miss Comfort took a deep breath and stepped out. "Your Majesty," she said, bowing respectfully, "Becky's parents are far away. She could not travel to bring them, but most importantly, she has been living in suffering." The crowd murmured. The queen narrowed her eyes. "Speak." And Miss Comfort spoke everything. How Aunty Kadi mistreated Becky, how she insulted her gift, how she constantly mocked her talent, how she chased her out of the house at night, how Becky had nowhere to sleep just yesterday. The entire palace fell silent. The queen shot to her feet, fury blazing in her eyes. "Guards, bring Kadi and Fina here at once." A few minutes later, the trembling pair were dragged into the courtyard. The queen glared at them. "So this is how you treat your own niece? You try to bury her gift? You chased her out at night?" Aunty Kadi stuttered. "My queen, it's family matter. It was a misunderstanding." "Silence," the queen barked. "People like you destroy destinies, and in this kingdom, we do not tolerate wickedness disguised as family." The villagers watched in disbelief as the queen delivered judgment. "For your cruelty, for your jealousy, and for trying to bury a girl's gift, you will sweep Becky's shop every morning for 1 year. You will sweep the palace compound for 1 year. You will clean the market at the end of every day's sales for 1 year. And let this be a warning." Her voice echoed through the courtyard. "If anything like this happens in any household again, the punishment will be worse." The villagers cheered. Justice had been served. After receiving her prizes, a no-rent workshop, all the materials she needed, a cash reward, and 5 plots of land, Becky held Miss Comfort's hand and cried tears of joy. From that day, Becky opened her own bead workshop. Bead makers from far and near came to learn under her. She trained young girls, giving them skills and jobs. She made beads for royalty, for villagers, for people in the city. Her designs traveled further than she ever imagined. Miss Comfort became her partner, the first person she hired. And her parents? Becky built them a beautiful home and made sure they lacked nothing ever again. A talent her aunt tried to bury became the gift that lifted an entire community. And that is how Becky's story turned from mockery into legacy.